All right, another spark and another spark. Titans, gather round. Today we're tackling something big. The very engine that drives the gameplay in a brand new trading card game called Tools and Titans.
We're going beyond the massive characters and the epic lore. We're looking at the gears beneath the forge. We're talking about the Tool Subsystem, the very language of action in the game.
The Tool Subsystem, you say? It sounds technical. Is this the part where you need an engineering degree to play? Because we're going to be talking about things like crafting power, structural integrity, and a whole system of mechanics.
It sounds like a lot, but the answer is no. In fact, the core of the game is beautifully simple. The complexity, the strategy, that comes from how you use your tools. And it all starts with 6 basic steps.
So how do you play Tools and Titans?
Easy. Draw your cards, charge your energy, build your field, act with your powers, clash with your titans, end your turn.
6 steps, one epic battle. Okay, so those 6 steps sound straightforward enough. Draw, charge, build, act, clash, end. But the build and act steps. That sounds like where the Tool Subsystem lives.
You've hit it exactly. The Tool Subsystem includes all the non-Titan cards that you play to perform an action, create an effect, or fundamentally change the state of the board. They are the things you use, not the goals you pursue.
So these are the cards that represent your schematics, your raw materials, your power plays. Let's break down what's in this powerful toolbox. Lay it on us. What's first?
The most direct are the tool cards themselves. Think of these as the spells or attacks of the game. They're your core actionable mechanics. The wrenches, the hammers, the welding torches you use to directly interact.
So a tool card might be something like Overcharged Rivet Gun, dealing direct damage?
Exactly. Or it could be something more subtle, like fine-tuning calipers, which lets you draw a card if you control a structure. It's a direct action for a direct, immediate result.
Got it. Direct and to the point. What's next on the list?
Next are weave cards. These are fascinating. They don't just create a one-time effect, they manipulate the very flow of the game. They function like field spells or auras.
So a tool card is a single swing of a hammer, but a weave card changes the gravity in the room while you're swinging it.
That's a perfect way to put it. Imagine a weave called perpetual motion field. As long as it's in play, maybe all of your tools that cost 1 charge now cost 0. It fundamentally alters the economy of your turn.
That could completely enable a different style of deck. I can see how that's not a direct tool, but a system you enable.
Precisely. Then, of course, you have charge token cards. These are the very energy, the fuel for your bigger actions. They are the resource engine that makes your entire workshop run. You can't forge anything without fire.
And what do you build with that fire?
You build structure cards. These are persistent systems that stay on your field. They might amplify your other tools, grant you passive effects, or act as defensive anchors for your Titan. They are the assembly line, the fortress wall.
So a card like Reinforced Forge might give every tool you play a bonus effect?
Or Automated Barricade could prevent your opponent's smaller units from attacking your Titan directly. They are your foundation. They stick around.
Okay, so you're building up your side of the board. But what about when your opponent is building their assembly line?
That's where Disruptive or Flux cards come in. These are your instants and reactions. You play them on your opponent's turn to break combos, interrupt the flow, and control the tempo. They are the tools of sabotage.
The monkey wrench in the gears. I like it. So this could be a card that says Cancel Target Tool card?
Exactly that. Or something like System Lag, which forces your opponent to pay extra for their next action. They are crucial for high-level reactive play.
Okay, that feels like a classic control element. What else is in the toolbox?
Now things get a little more esoteric. With EchoForm cards, imagine a tool that's also a temporary living construct. They are summoned to the field and have effects that pulse or fade over time.
A ghostly machine that works for a few turns and then vanishes. So it's not permanent like a structure, but it lasts longer than a tool?
Correct. Think of a resonant sentry that deals 1 damage to any attacking enemy at the end of each turn, but it only lasts for 3 turns. It's a tool in a living, breathing form that decays and disappears.
I see. Temporary presence with a lingering effect. Spooky and very cool. What about actual allies?
That brings us to ally cards. These are assistive units. They aren't titans, they aren't the main star, but they provide powerful passive or conditional effects. They're the skilled apprentices in your workshop.
So an ally isn't there to do the heavy lifting, but to make the heavy lifting easier.
Perfectly said. You might have a guild cartographer ally who lets you look at the top card of your deck at any time. He's not fighting, but the information he provides is invaluable.
So their main purpose is to make your other tools, or your titan, better.
Correct. And speaking of support, there are bait cards. These are your hidden responses, your traps, tools of misdirection, invisible until they're triggered. A classic trap card. Lure your opponent into a false sense of security and then bam.
So I could play a bait card that says, when your opponent targets your titan with a tool, cancel it and draw a card.
Exactly that. It forces your opponent to constantly second-guess your silent board. And finally, a special category, cast cards, exclusive to the noble tool titans. Think of them as faction-locked precision effects.
So if I'm playing the welder titan Fusio, he might have a cast card only he can use?
Yes, maybe a cast card called Perfect Weld that lets you fuse 2 of your structures into one, more powerful structure. It's a unique synergy that only that Titan's Guild can achieve.
Okay, that's a comprehensive list. Tools, weaves, structures, flux. It's a whole ecosystem. But you mentioned some cards are specifically excluded. Why wouldn't something like a task card be considered a tool?
That's a key design distinction. Task cards represent your objectives, your quests. You pursue them to win. You don't activate them for a mechanical effect. A tool is what you use. A task is what you achieve. It separates the how from the why of your victory.
Ah, so the tool is the means. The task is the end. That makes sense. What else is out?
Guild cards are also separate. A guild card defines your Titan's core identity. It's a passive ability that's always on. It's who you are, not a tool you wield. And event cards, which are optional global modifiers, represent the world itself changing, not a tool being used by a player.
And what about the other side? The bad guys? I see here that Scorch cards, which are exclusive to the Rustborn, are also excluded.
Right? And this is critical. Scorch cards belong to a completely different system, the entropy and corruption system. Their entire purpose is to sabotage, decay, and destroy tools. They are the anti-tool. Where a cast card might enhance a tool, a Scorch card might say, target a tool in play. It loses all abilities and its owner takes damage equal to its cost.
So the Tool Subsystem has a natural predator baked right into the game's design. That's brilliant. It creates a fundamental conflict right there in the mechanics.
That's the core idea. The Tool Subsystem is the living architecture of gameplay. It's what you build, wield, and deploy turn after turn. It's the engine that powers you through the game.
And that engine powers you through the entire game, turn after turn.
Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building, act, clash, end, 6 steps, infinite ways to forge your victory.
All right, I think we have a solid grasp on what the Tool Subsystem is, but let's dig into the numbers. The real mechanical guts. You mentioned 2 stats earlier, CP and ST. What are they?
This is where the tactical depth really shines. CP stands for crafting power. ST stands for structural integrity.
Crafting power and structural integrity. Let me guess. CP is about what a card does, and ST is about how long it lasts?
That's an excellent summary. Think of it this way. CP is power output and ST is structural presence. You use CP to define a card's impact, its combo weight, or the intensity of its effect. You use ST to define its durability, its anchoring presence on the field.
So let's apply that. For a basic tool card, the swing of the hammer, what does it get?
It gets CP, definitely. Its crafting power quantifies its impact, but it almost never has ST because it's a one-time effect. It happens, and then it's gone to the junkyard. It's not a structure.
Okay, so what about a structure card? The fortress wall.
That is all about STA. Structure's primary role is to contribute to your field's structural integrity. It's an anchor. Some advanced structures might have an optional CP value if they have an activated ability, but their main job is providing that ST.
So this distinction must really shape how you build a deck. If I want to play an aggressive rush-down style, I'm looking for high CP.
Exactly. You'll fill your deck with efficient tool cards that have high CP for their cost, aiming to overwhelm the opponent quickly. You might ignore ST almost entirely.
But if I want to play a slower control style deck,
Then you're looking for high ST. You want to build a fortress with durable structure cards. You want to survive the early game and then win with larger, more inevitable threats that are protected by your high structural integrity. It creates a beautiful tension in the gameplay.
this really clarifies the roles of the other cards too. A Flux card, the combo breaker, doesn't need its own stats. It just needs to target the opponent's stats.
Correct. A Flux card weaponizes the opponent's stats against them, and a temporary EchoForm is a hybrid. It has CP for its pulsing effect, but might require a certain ST from your board to even be summoned. A card only gets a stat if that stat tells a story about its function.
Okay, so CP for power, ST for presence. But the design document here goes one step further. It proposes a numerical leveling system, specifically a range of 1 to 5. Why not 1 to 10? Or 1 to 100 like in some other games?
That's a deliberate choice to avoid complexity, bloat, and power creep. A tight range of 1 to 5 is clean, readable, and incredibly tactical. It forces meaningful decisions and prevents the game from becoming a math problem.
How so? What does that feel like in a real game?
It creates a natural, intuitive play curve. In the early game, turns 1 and 2, you're playing your CP 1 and 2 cards. These are your setup tools, your small cantrips, your initial structures. You're building your engine.
Then you move into the mid-game.
Right? Turns 3 to 5. Now you're deploying your CP3 and CP4 cards. These are your significant threats, your powerful weaves, your key combo pieces. This is where the board state really starts to matter.
And the end game is all about that CP5.
Exactly. A CP5 card should feel like a major event. It should be a game-winning powerhouse that you've been working towards. Because the range is so tight, each single point of CP matters immensely. There's a huge difference between a 4 and a 5.
And this leveling system applies across the whole game?
Everywhere. In competitive play, you'll see cards that target specific CP or ST values. In the single-player Crucible mode, you might face an environmental challenge like, at the end of the turn, a Rustquake hits all tools with an ST of 2 or less. It's a universal language.
So, in the end, the Tool Subsystem isn't just a collection of cards. It's a deeply interconnected language of gameplay.
It is. It's what makes the game tactical. It's the architecture you build, the power you wield, and the engine that drives your victory piece by piece.
From the simplest tool to the most complex structure, it all comes back to how you play your turn.
In every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves: draw, charge, building, act, clash, end.
Simplicity for the novice.
Mastery for the Titan.